Story 1. My stepdaughter is getting married on August 3rd. Wedding planning has consumed most of her and her mother's lives for the past 6 months. My stepdaughter graduated last December from university. I paid for her to go to college, though it was a state school. It still ran about $40,000. She doesn't have a job and has been living with us for the duration of her college career and since graduation. I also bought her a car when she'd finished high school so she could get back and forth to school. From time to time, her deadbeat father would pop back into her life and she would fawn all over him. Although he has not contributed a cent to her education or paid any child support, though that's partly my girlfriend's fault, as child support wasn't part of the settlement, she still loves him and wants him in her life. He stays just long enough to break her heart by skipping town and breaking whatever promise he made her. The wedding venue holds a maximum of 250 people. I gave them a list of 20 people I wanted invited, since I was paying for everything. They told me that was no problem and that they'd take care of it. So I let those people know they'd be getting an invite and should save the date. On Saturday, I ran into one of my friends from that list at the golf course and asked if he was coming. He told me he wasn't invited, said he received an announcement but not an invitation. He had it in his back seat along with probably 6 months of mail and showed it to me. Sure enough, it was just an announcement and my name was nowhere on it. It had her dad's name and her mom's name, but not mine. That led to a pretty big fight with my girlfriend. I found out that none of my list of 20 made the cut for the final guest list because 250 people is very tight. I was furious, but there wasn't a hell of a lot I could do because the important people in my life had already been offended. My girlfriend said if some people don't RSVP, yes, I might be able to get a couple of your people in. In my opinion, that was the ultimate slap in the face. So I was boiling all Saturday. Yesterday we had Sunday dinner with the future in-laws and a surprise guest, the real dad. During dinner, my stepdaughter announced that her real dad would be able to make it to the wedding and that he would now be the one giving her away. This was greeted with a chorus of, "Oh, how great and how wonderful." I don't think I've ever felt so angry or so disrespected. I was shaking. I took a few seconds to gather myself because I honestly wasn't sure whether I was going to cry or start throwing punches or both. Once I was sure I could speak, I stood up and said, "I'd like to make a toast. I'd like to make a toast." The sound of spoons against glasses rang in my ears. It has been my great pleasure to be part of this family for the past 10 years. At this point in my life, I feel I owe a debt of gratitude to the bride and groom because they have opened my eyes to something very important. Confident smiles were exchanged. They have shown me that my position in this family is not what I once thought it was. A glimmer of confusion and shock spread across the room. Though I once thought of myself as the patriarch, or at least a godfather figure, commanding respect and sought out for help in times of need, it seems instead that I hold the position of an ATM, good for a steady stream of money, but not much else. Since I've been replaced as host, both on the invitations and in the ceremony, I am resigning my financial duties as host to my successor, real dad. So cheers to the happy couple and the path they have chosen. I finished my drink. You can all let yourselves out. Is that selfish? I'm supposed to shell out $40 $50K for a wedding I can't invite anyone to? A wedding I'm not part of? I'm done with this? I'm done with my stepdaughter? I'm done with my girlfriend? I transferred the money out of our joint account last night. She hasn't had a job since she moved in with me. This morning I called all the vendors I'd written deposit checks to and requested refunds. At this point it looks like I'll lose around $1,500 on the venue, but the other vendors have been great about refunding. Update 1. The immediate aftermath was tantrums and people mumbling to each other instead of speaking directly to me. After much yelling from my girlfriend about how selfish I am, I spent the night in my home office. No one knocked on my door. Not once. Today's aftermath is just depressing. My girlfriend brought me the bride's wedding planner to show me how much work I was ruining. I flipped through it and found the page for the father-daughter dance. Every song was catered to real dad's taste. At first I thought they were just being disrespectful. Now I'm realizing they may never have cared at all, especially since the menu included 2 ingredients I'm allergic to. It actually made me laugh. Either way, I'm glad to be done. I returned the planner and asked her when she and the bride would be moving out. Also, I never explicitly promised to pay for the wedding. I offered the use of my home when they thought it would be small. Other than that, all I've heard is that the bride's family should pay. So let it be the bride's family, which, apparently, is not me. Final update. Girlfriend and bride have now moved out. They're moving in with the groom. It was very hard not to be petty about some of the belongings they took, but it's done. I've changed the locks, and now it's time for a beer. I can't believe how popular this story became, but I appreciate the support. If I find out what happens with the wedding, I'll let you know, though I can't promise I'll make the effort. From what I've heard, they're trying to scale things back and get his parents to help pay. My girlfriend burned any remaining bridges when I found out she tried to write herself a check from our joint account the day after everything happened. By then, I had already moved the money. Maybe that makes me a bigger jerk than her, but I saw it coming. Would you have done the same? Story 2. Hop tells a mom she's responsible if her kid dies. And then things take a turn. I-25F, work at a stable. On Saturday mornings, we run beginner groups for kids who want to start riding. The kids and their parents gather for about 1.5 hours every Saturday, and the kids have their first lesson. I teach them the 3 rules that must be followed at all times. No running in the stables or around the horses. No screaming in the stables. Never ever walk up behind or stand behind a horse. This new group had their 3rd lesson today. Usually the kids are really good at following the rules and listening to what I say. If they don't, their parents usually step in and help. But I have this one boy who has been a problem since day 1. He's loud, he runs everywhere, and he's very disruptive. After the first lesson, I pulled his mother aside and asked her to help keep him calm. I told her that if he wasn't listening to me, it would be very helpful if she stepped in and corrected him. I guess she didn't take that seriously because last week we had the exact same issues. That time I told him that if he didn't listen, he wouldn't get to ride the horses. He threw a tantrum. She didn't help. Today I was honestly dreading teaching him. I don't know if my patience is wearing thin or if he was worse than usual, but it was driving me crazy. At one point he bolted full speed toward a horse that was facing away from him. Before he could get too close, I managed to grab his arm and pull him to a stop. I guess I grabbed him a little hard because he yelled. His mother stormed over, grabbed her son, and told me not to touch him, asking how dare I do that to him. I told her he was a danger to himself and others. She disagreed and started arguing with me. At that point, I was completely fed up and told her that if he died in this stable because he scared a horse, it would be on her. She was furious. She grabbed her son and stormed off. The other parents honestly seemed relieved that he probably wouldn't be coming back. But when I told a friend about what happened, she called me a fucking psycho for saying that to a mom. ENFO. Youngest kid is 6, oldest is 8, this boy is 7. Some people have asked whether the child might be neurodivergent. That's possible, I guess. But it's not something I was informed of, and it's not my job to diagnose the kids I teach. We actually have groups for children with special needs, and they usually do perfectly fine. We even have a program for disabled adults who come to the stable to help out. Even if the child is neurodivergent, it's something we could work with, but that's information we would need to be told up front. Final update? I wasn't going to post an update, but I've been asked for one, and honestly, things got crazy enough to warrant it. The Monday after everything happened, my boss, the manager of the stable, got a call from the mom. She was furious and demanded her money back for the 3 lessons. Testra. I had already explained everything to my boss, so she told the mom that she wouldn't be getting a refund because she had agreed to the terms when she signed her son up. She also told her that since her son was a danger to himself and others, he wasn't welcome back. The mom went absolutely ballistic, yelled a bunch of obscenities, and hung up. A calm 2 weeks followed. Then things escalated. One morning, we arrived at the stable to find that all the ponies had gotten out of their pasture. The ponies are essentially free range, meaning they stay outside 24/7. Somehow they had escaped and were grazing in the forest near the stable. Thankfully, they were okay. At first, we thought maybe a wild animal had gotten into the pasture and spooked them. A moose, maybe? While we don't usually have wolves around here, they have been spotted nearby, so it wasn't impossible. Checked the fence, fixed a weak section, and moved on until it got worse. A couple of days later, I got a call in the middle of the night. The outhouse where the ponies usually sleep was on fire. It was terrifying. Thankfully, the ponies weren't inside at the time, but someone had clearly intended to hurt them. You can't see into the pasture at night, so whoever did it wouldn't have known whether the ponies were inside. That same day, we bought security cameras and notified the police. Unfortunately, there wasn't much they could do at the time. They suggested it might be local kids, since there had been recent fires set in dumpsters in a garden shed nearby. We installed the cameras and took turns staying overnight at the stable. Nothing happened for about a week and a half, so we stopped staying there. Then, a few days later, I arrived one morning and found cuts on some of the horses. Someone had broken into the stable during the night and deliberately hurt them. I called my coworkers and the police immediately. When we reviewed the camera footage, we saw a man entering and leaving the stable. Guess who it was? The husband of the crazy mom. The police arrested him, so hopefully they both get what's coming to them. It's been a wild few weeks, and I'm exhausted. But I'm okay, and thankfully, the horses are on their way to being okay too.